Hi, my name's Sierra, and I'm starting this channel to tell my story. I live with a major depressive disorder and multiple anxiety disorders. And I'm sure there's many out there that's like me, but the reason I decided to start this channel was I was hoping that by sharing my struggles and my story that I would reach somebody out there and create a community so we all have each other to lean on, because there's not enough support out there. It's a very lonely world. But like I said, this is just like an introductory video. My name's Sierra Deal. I live in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and I am an EMT basic. And like I have mentioned, I have been recently diagnosed with major depressive disorder, and I also have generalized anxiety disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, and social anxiety disorder. I didn't really understand what was wrong with me until I went to my pediatrician one day and I told her something was wrong. I was having chest pains. I was crying over everything. Everything was always so stressful. And just by sitting there, my heartbeat was in like the 120s. And she told me that she believed I had anxiety disorder, and she put me on Zoloft. And ever since then, I've had developments, I've had setbacks, and now I kind of don't know if I could say that I've gotten better or that I've gotten worse. I feel a lot of times that I have a lot of setbacks. My panic attacks are like I'm paralyzed almost. And I can't always breathe. And it's just like sometimes I lose consciousness, or sometimes I stare at a fixed point. And it's like my mind is just consumed with all these negative thoughts. And now let me be clear, I've never had any suicidal thoughts. I've had thoughts of self-harm only because there were times that I felt numb and that I wanted to feel something other than pain or sleepiness, things of that nature. And one of the reasons I said I created this channel was to create a community. I'm not on here looking for pity or to be famous or for a sob story. I'm only on here trying to help, because I know that it would be nice to kind of create a community and reach out to people and know that I'm not the only one that is suffering. It's scary. And you find yourself lost. You find yourself wondering if you're the only crazy person on this planet, or why did all the bad things have to happen to me? You know, like the things that led up to me developing this disorder. So I guess I'll start my story from the beginning. Let's fast track or rewind. I didn't always have the most stable family. My mother and father divorced shortly after I was born, and she kind of disappeared from my life for a while. I would say until I was about 8 years old. And my father, he was sickly. I don't have a lot of memories of my father, but whatever memories I do have is maybe of him having a seizure, or him being in the hospital and me feeding him Jello, or wondering when Daddy was gonna come home, because Daddy always lived at the hospital. And at the time, I don't think I understood, what was wrong. I just knew that Daddy was sick. So I was left in the care of relatives, mostly my grandmother, his mother, and my uncle. And they weren't the most stable people. My grandmother, she was actually mentally insane. She was mentally incapable of caring for someone my age. We'll get more into that later. 3 days before my 7th birthday, my father passed away. And on my birthday, we held his funeral. So you can imagine my confusion as I'm getting presents, at my father's wake, and my father's lying in a casket. It's definitely not something any child wants to experience. And side note, I got the worst birthday present. Like, we're talking about a Britney Spears doll that's saying, "Oops, I did it again," okay? I hated that Barbie doll. Worst birthday present ever. And I definitely say, really? My father's dead and now you're gonna give me a Britney Spears doll? Well, that probably explains a lot about my life now. Just kidding. But anyway. After my father passed away, I permanently moved to live with my uncle and grandmother. And as I mentioned before, she was unstable. My uncle became an alcoholic and was drunk almost every night. And my grandmother started, displaying more of her psychotic tendencies. She started talking to walls. There was actually one time that she tried to kill me. She had one of those big cutting knives. And one day she was talking to the wall, and I came in and I said, "Grandma, are you okay?" And she said, she just kept talking to him. And then she said, "Come here." And told me to sit down right beside her on my father's bed. And she said, "We're going home." And I said, "What do you mean we are home?" She said, "No, we're going home." And at that time, she started to kind of move her hand behind her, and I noticed that she had that cutting knife. And right away something clicked in my head. I was young, but I knew something was wrong. And I was sort of "Hold on a minute. I'll be right back. Gotta use the bathroom." And I ran to the living room window, and we were in a condo. And I noticed my neighbors were pulling up, and I opened the window and I was screaming for help. Because something was not right. And, long story short, I called the ambulance and she was admitted. And my uncle came home, having to try to explain to, the little 7, 8-year-old me that, your grandma's mentally insane. And, as we'll kind of go on down the line, I'll explain how, all this information came available to me as I got older. But, kind of telling the story in chronological order as I remember it. So with my uncle being an alcoholic, at the time I didn't also understand that he was homosexual, which I have no problem with homosexual people. It was a little bit confusing for me though as a child, I will say, because I didn't understand who Uncle Rob was, which at the time was his boyfriend. I didn't understand a lot. Not a lot was explained to me. I guess they kept me in the dark trying to protect me, but it just made me more confused. And I started having social problems. I started not wanting to communicate with people. I didn't want to go hang out with anybody because I felt like I was different. I felt like I was an outcast or a social pariah. I felt like if I came in contact with anybody, I would break. I would just shatter into a million pieces. What would I say? What would I do? I started having these thoughts at a very young age, and I didn't really have anybody to talk to. I believe probably sometime after my father's death, my grandmother and my uncle tried to get me to see a therapist. I have very faint memories of that, but I don't know how that went. I don't really remember, and I don't really think it helped. Looking now on my life, I don't really think it helped. Do I know for sure? I don't remember. Eventually, my mother made a reappearance. She claimed that her and my dad kind of lost touch, and my dad didn't really want me around her and her new husband. And she took my uncle to court for a custody battle. And at the time, I was very attached to my uncle because, I didn't really know my mom very well. And I was scared. I was scared shitless that my world was about to be changed, and the last thing I could think about was I don't want this change. And I remember going to the judge and talking to the judge, and telling him why I wanted to live with my uncle. Why I didn't want to live with my mom, because I didn't know my mom. In the end, they ended up granting custody, and I ended up moving here from Winston-Salem, North Carolina to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I said North Carolina, my bad. Anyways, I moved down here, and my whole world was rocked. I was getting to know my mother, losing my father. I was still adjusting to that, and then all of a sudden there's this stepdad figure that just shows up in the picture out of nowhere, and I'm just supposed to accept it. I don't remember very much about that transition time besides the fact that I didn't like it. I wanted to go home, what I considered home. I hadn't made this a home yet. I hadn't really tried. Like I said, engaging with anybody was just scary to me. And as I started going to school down here, I started feeling those feelings of lost. Like, I was lost. Like, I don't understand these people, or just, like, freaking out. Like, what if the teacher calls on me? Oh, what if I do this? What if I make a mistake here? And, oh my God, I hope nobody's looking at me. And didn't want to be in public at all. As the years progressed, I became devoted to being an academic scholar. I wanted to have A's and B's or all A's, and I wanted to be in Beta Club and National Honor Society. I was a bookworm. All I wanted to do was study. I wanted to make the most out of my life. As I progressed into high school, I became involved in band, but then I had fears of playing in front of people by myself as a solo. And I would go into the bathroom and cry after band class because the teacher called on me and I played it wrong because I was so scared. And I started, wanting to have boyfriends, but my mom didn't want me to have boyfriends, so I wasn't permitted to date at that time. So I was just having boyfriends in school, thinking that was going to fix the problem, that I just needed true love and a Prince Charming to save my day, and I was only in 6th grade. I didn't understand. My first, major breakthrough where I really lost my shit was my first major boyfriend when he broke up with me. I said something stupid because I was so upset, and somebody took it literally. I said something along the lines of, I think I was exasperated, and I said something like, oh my gosh, I'm just gonna, kill myself out of frustration or something. And somebody took that literally. And next thing I know, my mom's throwing with Tylenol pills at me saying, if you're going to kill yourself, and taking the door off the hinges and trying to get me committed because she thought I was suicidal. And I just lost my first major boyfriend. I felt like I was suffering. And then I had to go see a counselor at school and tell her, my feelings are hurt. I mean, I didn't mean what I said. I was frustrated. I couldn't understand this guy, whatever. And, she believed me, which was the truth. And my mom didn't believe me. She thought, oh, she's just fooling the counselor. So it took her some time to believe that. And then, the first guy that paid me attention freshman year of high school, I lost my virginity to him, and he was a senior. And I learned real quick that you can't trust a lot of people. I think I had a lot of hurt that kind of brought me low. And this is stuff every child experiences. But I think male figures in my life haven't been the best. So I tended to be a little bit more devastated at those losses. So, those normal, everyday things that now, don't get me wrong. There's going to be probably people out there just like me, or kids that are just okay being in the spotlight or something like that. But it freaked me out. I was crying in the bathroom, rocking back and forth, wondering why I can't just, be happy and, have no one look at me. And, it blows my mind now to even talk about it, because talking about it doesn't do it justice. Going through it, there's no words. And, I think that was, some of the starts of some of my most major panic attacks where I would just rock on the floor and just can't breathe, and just holding my dad's cremations close to my chest, trying to gather like strength from something, because nobody was hearing me. Nobody was helping me. Everybody thought, oh, she's so dramatic. No, I was hurting. I didn't understand why I was hurting. I had no one to talk to. You know, you may ask why I didn't talk to my mom, because me and my mom were just never that close. And I felt like she was just going to call me a crybaby, or just, dismiss me as being too sensitive and to grow up, which sometimes she did do. And that really, like, it kind of just made me say, suck it up and deal with it. And then as the years went on and it kept getting worse, I knew something was wrong. And, I finally got up enough courage to say something to my doctor. And I'm so glad that I did, because if I didn't, then I probably wouldn't be medicated right now. And I probably wouldn't be feeling better. Don't get me wrong, I still have struggles, and we'll talk about that more in the next video. But I'm calling out to the people out there that have my problems, that have depression or anxiety disorder. And you know what it's like to not want to be in public, to have fears over the littlest of things, and don't understand why your body's freaking out the way it is, and you're scared. There's someone out here that is just like you. And I've been struggling with it for most of my life. And I want this to be a community, so please leave a comment down below, like this video, spread this awareness, because I'm going to be on here telling my story and, addressing comments. I want to help, because, I think we can help each other. That's enough for today. I'll see you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye-bye.